Are all our participants ready? Terrific. Welcome, everybody. Welcome back for the final session of the Summer Innovation Series. As we've seen over the past 2 months, Florida is truly an amazing state for innovation, and we have had an amazing time celebrating the creativity of its citizens. If any of you are joining us for the first time, I would like to introduce myself and Florida House. My name is Kate Brocht, and I am the Programs and Marketing Officer here at Florida House on Capitol Hill. Florida House is the only state embassy in the country. That is something we are tremendously proud of. And we were founded almost 50 years ago by Rhea Childs, who was the wife of Senator and later Governor Lawton Childs. We were conceived as a space to welcome Floridians to our nation's capital. And today our mission is to connect, celebrate, and champion Florida to the world. As a part of that mission, we are proud to be a champion for Floridians who are making tremendous strides in innovation. From the creation of iconic products like Gatorade and Spanx to the development of critical systems that defend our homes and our lives, Floridians are making an impact on the national stage. We are thrilled to partner with 2 organizations who share the goal of celebrating Florida and Floridians, the Cade Museum for Creativity and Invention and the Florida Inventors Hall of Fame for this summer's program, Revolutionizing the Future with AI. This year, we are seeing more and more companies that are making AI an important part of their operations, and we are blown away with how Floridians are utilizing this incredible technology. I'd now like to introduce Jamie Spurrier, the Program Manager for the Florida Inventors Hall of Fame. Jamie, if you'd like to say a few words, that would be great.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Kate, for that introduction, and welcome everyone who has been with us before or joining new. We're very excited again to be discussing artificial intelligence, and this week we're talking about it as it pertains to business with one of our Florida Inventors Hall of Fame partners, Dr. Russ Barnes, the CEO of Sistro Solutions. Very excited to have him join us today. But before we jump into that, we want to first thank our partners at Florida House on Capitol Hill, as well as the Cade Museum for Creativity and Invention, and of course our host, James DiVirgilio, for this great collaboration on the Florida Innovation Summer Speaker Series. It's a privilege to work with you all, and I'm going to miss you. This is our last session. So again, for those of you who are joining us for the first time at the Florida Inventors Hall of Fame, we are looking to create a culture shift here to celebrate our state's inventors and innovators the way we celebrate our national heroes. Our mission is to encourage individuals of all ages and backgrounds to strive toward the betterment of society through continuous groundbreaking innovation by supporting a culture of creativity, one that fuels innovation, drives economic growth, and encourages investment in Florida. To date, the Florida Inventors Hall of Fame has inducted 68 remarkable inventors who collectively hold over 5,000 patents. Some of our inductees include Thomas Edison, as well as Hollywood icon Hedy Lamarr. And Kate mentioned a few other ones, Sarah Blakely, founder of Spanx, and Dr. James Robert Cade, the inventor of Gatorade. We also recently launched our new Ignite Education Community Outreach Program for the purpose of inspiring generations of new inventors through engagement. We're a statewide program located at the University of South Florida's Tampa campus. And we'd love for you to come visit us online or in person anytime. Now it's my pleasure to introduce to you Edgar O'Neill Figueroa, the program coordinator at the Cade Museum for Creativity and Invention. Go ahead, Edgar.
Right. Thank you, Jamie. Always excited to be here speaking on behalf of the Cade Museum for Creativity and Invention. Really excited to kick off today's program for the last time. And so, of course, I want to give a thank you to Florida House on Capitol Hill and Florida Inventors Hall of Fame for being incredible partners to work with these past couple of months. All right, and then just to let you all know a little bit more about the Cade Museum, our mission is to transform communities through inspiring and equipping future inventors, entrepreneurs, and visionaries. The museum gets its name for Mary Cade and her husband, Dr. James Robert Cade, who was a doctor, musician, poet, and as mentioned a couple times before already today, the lead inventor of Gatorade. So the museum is designed to promote the development of an inventive mindset, which the Cade does call inventivity. And we do that through our proprietary invention education framework, where we create outreach programs and exhibits that spark wonder and teach STEAM concepts through the lens of invention. And one of our marquee programs, the CADE Prize, which was designed to award inventors and entrepreneurs, has actually gone national this year with $100,000 in cash prizes. And so applications are currently open, but they are closing up on the 31st. And if you want to find more about that, you can always go to our website, cademuseum.org. All right, now to really kick into it, I'd like to welcome back James DiVirgilio as our moderator for today's program. James is one of the country's leading fiduciary investors and financial planners, as well as the co-founder of Chacon Diaz and DiVirgilio Wealth Management. He has been featured on the world's largest news networks, was a Gator 100 honoree, and a 40 Gators Under 40 award winner. James is also an adjunct professor at the University of Florida, the co-host of the Gator Nation Football Podcast, the co-host of the Inventivity Pod, and on the board of directors for the Cade Museum. All right, I'm really looking forward to this conversation. Take it away, James.
Thanks, Edgar. And it's my pleasure to introduce today our guest, which is Colonel Dr. Russ Barnes. He is the CEO of Sistro Solutions, a strategy development firm that focuses on helping small business owners achieve profitability. His strategy development expertise is drawn from nearly 30 years of military service as a senior officer, 10 plus years of small business experience in doctorate level academic research. His Purposely Profitable program has helped hundreds, and that program helps guide small business owners in creating and implementing a customized progression toward their prosperity. In support of the Purposely Profitable program, Russ produced the Purposely Profitable podcast and the Mission Mapping Workshop. Russ speaks publicly on organizing your business for profitable growth and CEO skills for small business. He's the author of the #1 bestseller, Small Business for Service Members, 15 Things You Need to Know to Be Purposely Profitable, and a co-author in 3 #1 bestsellers, Becoming a GovCon Expert, Game Changers for Government Contractors, and Mission Unstoppable, Extraordinary Stories of Failures and Blessings. Colonel Dr. Russ Barnes, welcome to the program.
It is my pleasure. I'm thrilled to be on. And as always, I want to thank the Florida House and Cade Museum, as well as the Florida Inventors Hall of Fame for having me on, and for you as well. That was phenomenal. You did that without even stumbling.
I tell you, you really gave me quite the challenge with all of the purposely profitable programming.
That's it.
I'm glad that we got it. And I want to kick this off with, obviously, you have a lot of experience in some different things. We've done an episode with military, we've done episodes with universities, episodes with other business owners in different fields. And obviously today we're going to bring you in to close everything up. You're the closer, if you will, and you're going to tie kind of all these things together, because small business is really the engine of entrepreneurship. It really is what drives a lot of new ideas. It's a lot of where people essentially, right, are kind of playgrounding new concepts that eventually make their way into companies that we all know and love, the Amazons of the world, right? The Googles of the world. Those started with, just an idea, and it became something very large. So in your case, you're helping these small businesses achieve these things. And we're talking about AI today. So let's start with that. How are you using AI to help small business owners?
Personally, with Sistro Solutions, I do strategy development and organization design work. I have to go back and give you some history on how I got where I am, because if we're going to talk about how AI can help businesses grow, we kind of need to be on the same page in terms of what it takes to help a business grow. And you've got coaches out there, you've got consultants, you have all of these folks who are well-versed in their spaces, and they help people in different ways. You have also different areas of expertise. So when I started down this path of deciding that I needed to be one who helped small businesses, I had to look at where my skill set was and how I was going to approach helping small businesses. And so I want to take a few minutes and kind of give you a little bit of a long story, but it'll set the stage, and I think it will be instrumental in when we start really talking about how AI can facilitate the development of small businesses. So is that okay?
That's great.
Okay. I've always had an entrepreneurial mindset. I ended up having a 27-year detour in the military. I joined the military because it was a way for me to pay for college, and I said, I'll do my 4 years, I'll get out and make some real money. Well, in the military, I learned a lot about strategy. I had a lot of experiences in strategy development, but it was at a high corporate level. When I retired from the military, I decided one thing only, and that is that I never wanted to work for anybody ever again. And so I was going to figure out how to take control of my freedom of finances, freedom of time, freedom of decisions, and all those types of things. And I tried a few different things and realized that at my age, going into business was probably the most purposeful and intentional thing that would get me to where I wanted to be. We were talking a little bit earlier about, time, and I just didn't have time to go through some of the longer term investment strategies. So I needed to do something that would be more controllable in that. So what I found out though is that in my 27 years of military service, we didn't do a whole lot of trial and error. We did a lot of strategy development. We did a lot of pattern trends, recognition, and we did a lot of training. We did a lot of things because national security couldn't be at risk, and we couldn't guess, and we couldn't take these risks. So when I stepped out and I wanted to go into business, I thought there would be some type of frameworks available from a strategic perspective, and there were not. What we were being taught at the time is, you write your business plan, first you register your business, then you write your business plan, then you do something that's going to kind of get you some revenue coming in the door. And that was basically the path. So it was a lot of trial and error. And everywhere I looked, every business owner was doing something different and trying to succeed. And I couldn't make sense out of it. I couldn't even see any patterns whatsoever in what I was supposed to be doing. So that kind of set me on this path to say, how do we take more control over this business, this idea of being in business, reduce the anxiety, reduce the overwhelm, reduce these types of things. And I happened to be in a networking group at the time. So I had this ready community of people who were struggling to make money, and they were basically relying on referral marketing to get, any dollars coming in the door. And I started trying to help them out a little bit and figure it out. I was coming from a systems perspective. I read something that said, you want to build systems to run your business, and then you bring people in to run the systems. So all of these types of approaches I had in my brain, but I couldn't figure it out. So I went into a PhD program in 2016, completed the program in 2019. It was an organization development program. It was a scholar practitioner program. And it was, and my goal was to understand how to bring organization design to the small business community. So my dissertation was organization design for small business. And that's what I worked on. I studied 75 businesses that started with zero and built their companies to $100 million in annual revenue. And I studied them in the pre-profitability stage. So what did they do to position themselves for that kind of financial success? And I built that into the programs. I built that into the Purposefully Profitable program for Sistro Solutions. So when I come at business, I also tie that to my athletic career. I played Division I basketball in college. And when I went to basketball practice, we did fundamentals, and then we did some, teamwork, and then we looked at how we were going to prepare for our next opponent. But the fundamentals were the key. And I was a basketball player, and I'm not going to go into the details for those of you who don't play basketball or don't know basketball. But at the end of the day, there are three really basic foundational fundamentals. If you can't dribble, pass, and shoot the ball, you can't play the game. Nobody's going to put you on their team. As a kid, you're going to be standing on the sideline because nobody wants you because you can't dribble, pass, or shoot. And so when I started thinking about business, I was looking for the same thing, and it wasn't there. People were, again, all over the place. So in my dissertation, I identified, and from studying these companies, I identified three basic business fundamentals. They should not shock and surprise you. One is selling, one is cultivating relationships, and the other one is research. Those are three basics, according to my research. So if you can't do those three things, you're going to really struggle in getting any traction at all in moving forward with your business. So I wanted to lay that foundation because now as we get into talking about how AI can help people build their businesses, we have to think of it in those three categories. What I like to do right now is, if you have any questions about how I came up with them, what they mean, or if anybody in the audience, I don't know how you're going to do that, but I want to kind of talk about those three basic business fundamentals and kind of move forward from there.
Certainly, and I'm glad you mentioned that. As an audience member, you can ask questions to Dr. Barnes, and I will ask them from the 2:30 to 2:40 section of this program, depending on where you are. That's Eastern time, of course. So 15 minutes from now, your questions, put them in chat. We will ask Dr. Barnes that. And so anything you want, you can put there and I will ask it. In the meantime, let's continue down that path and let's talk about perhaps in one or maybe two or three of those, however you want to take this question. How is AI being utilized amongst the fundamentals of small business?
So the biggest benefit to AI is the savings in time. And if we go back to the traditional, which was, write a business plan, you can use AI to craft you a business plan in minutes. You can use AI to create a website for you in minutes. All of these things are kind of at the tactical level of how you're building and growing your company and how you're running, how you're managing your business. But it is a tremendous savings in time if you use it effectively, because AI can also be less than perfect and less than useful in what it puts out to you. There's something called prompt engineering, and if you're not putting the right words in, then it's garbage in, garbage out. If you're not putting the right words in, you get the wrong things out. And so there are many business owners that I know in the Tampa area who are leveraging the hundreds of different AI tools to be able to save that time, to give them a starting point that now they can massage that, manipulate that, and then come out with a better product at the end. I think that when you apply AI in the business community, business is social, small business is primarily social. So when you can start out with something that is giving you a good starting point for the language that you use, then your communication improves significantly. And if you can't transfer images from your brain to the brains of the other people, then you're really not communicating very effectively. And so in that sense, I see very many small business owners who are leveraging AI from that particular perspective.
What would you say to small business owners who are not utilizing AI? Are they at risk of having their businesses at a competitive disadvantage?
Absolutely. And I'm glad you said that, because that was the thing that is happening. If you are not using AI, you are at a competitive disadvantage. But it kind of stops there, because while you may be at a competitive disadvantage, it doesn't mean that you can't continue to grow and to make things happen, because at this point in time, what we've traditionally been doing in terms of growing businesses is not dependent upon that type of acceleration. So I would look at it more from this perspective to say that if you are using AI, you are putting yourself at a tremendous competitive advantage. But when you look at companies anyway, there are so many companies that start out in the same space. If you have an idea for a business, you better believe there's 10 other people who have the same idea at the same time. And the ones who have the most entrepreneurial mentality and the adaptability to the environment around them are typically the ones that come out ahead. They start to move forward a little faster than their competitors. And what makes a business stand out above everyone else is kind of loyalty. When someone buys from you and they trust you, so you go back to businesses, people do business with people they know, like, and trust. So if you go back and you've established trust with people with your product, then it's going to be very difficult for someone to take that customer away from you unless you really piss the customers off, which you never want to do. It costs more to get a new customer than it does to keep one. So you want to do everything you can to keep them, but there's a bigger hurdle to get over for someone to change from you to them, and so you can retain them if you continue to do that good business with them. So that part of business will continue, and it won't be until the majority of people are now beginning to adopt the AI tools into their company that competitive advantage will begin to erode a little bit. But so I would back off a little bit and say you're not at a competitive disadvantage, but you are definitely not taking the competitive advantage that is available to you.
So when you're working with small businesses and you're trying to increase their growth, and obviously you're going through your various purposely profitable methodology, the mission mapping workshop, right? How would you tactically give them a suggestion to use AI? And give me a real world example. I worked with this business owner and I said you should utilize this because it will improve efficiency or whatever the case may be.
Well, for me, when I decided to go down this path, I understood a couple of things about business owners. Number one is they don't want to be told what to do. Because if you're an entrepreneur and you have the entrepreneurial mindset, you believe in yourself and you believe in what you're doing and you want help. You want people to come in and enhance your ability to think through a problem, but you don't want somebody to say, you do this and do this and do this. And so that's been my experience. So when I started out down this path, I said, I have to come up with a way of communicating and working with my clients that enables them to retain the creativity, whereas my job is to remove the guesswork. I also knew that I wanted to have an impact on communities and not just help a few people here and there. So I set a goal for myself. I wanted to help 600,000 micro business owners become purposefully profitable. And if I'm going to do that, then I can't do that with workshops and talking to people and one-on-ones and different things like that. I need to have something that's automated in and of itself. And now remember, I started this path. I started the path on Sistro Solutions in 2015. So this is what I was thinking in 2015, that I needed to automate this whole thing. I thought automation was going to put a lot of people out of work and that eventually people would have to figure out how to generate revenue into their family so they could pay their bills and so forth. I saw that coming. I just didn't know how it was going to be accelerated through COVID. And I certainly didn't know that it was going to be accelerated even more significantly by AI. So what I've done with my company is I've created a series of an assessment and a series of worksheets. The series of worksheets are based upon how experienced business owners think. And remember, I studied 75 of them who built companies to $100 million in annual revenue. So these worksheets and the assessment that goes with it were built based upon how experienced business owners think. So when I work with a client, we just go through the worksheets. And as they go through, so for example, one of them is, what is the problem? What is the solution? What is the product? What is the price? What is the unit of sale? What is the unit of sale? What are the consequences? What are the risks? What are the value propositions, not only in terms of psychologically, but in terms of return on investment? How is it saving you money? How is it making you money? How is it saving you time? So we go down through this worksheet. So when it comes to something like AI, what I'm actually doing with my company is I'm saying, this is a worksheet that now I sit down with clients and we walk through this worksheet. And now they'll be able to, I'm working to put AI into it. So now they'll be able to use AI to come up with the answers that I would have come up, that I have worked with them to come up with. And so those are the types of things that is the way that I approach this. So when it comes to telling a client that they should incorporate AI into their program, it's never me having to say you should. It's by going through this strategic thinking process, it becomes obvious to them that they're leaving money on the table if they don't do certain things. Because the other part of this is one of the biggest challenges for me being in business, and it may have been the same for you, was not the technicalities and the mechanics and all those other kind of things. It was the way I felt. And there were just certain things that scared the lights out of me. And I remember having to look in the mirror and say, you know what, don't let how you feel determine how you act. You have got to get this done. So just get out there and get it done. And when you have that sort of determination behind you and you say, and you introduce AI tools, because that's what I'll do. I'll introduce it to them and say, hey, this is something that can help you accelerate your progression. And then it's up to them to really use the entrepreneurial mindset to take it on and move forward. I did have a score counselor who told me, he asked me that question. He said, how are you going to deal with the egos of people who don't want to be told what to do? And that kind of went into my philosophy in terms of how I work with them.
So you mentioned, I think 600,000 is the number that you mentioned you're trying to reach. I imagine part of that will, maybe I would say almost all of that to reach that number would have to be reached using AI, or what I'm going to call an algorithm, that you would
Mhm.
create that essentially takes what you know and spreads it in mass to anyone who wants to get it. So how many years do you think you're potentially away from taking everything you've known and built to, I'm not going to say completely automating it. I'm going to oversimplify this by saying I go into Chat GPT and I say, what's the best way to make my business more profitable at this size? And basically what it does is it searches the whole world and it finds your information and says this is the best answer to the question, and boom, there it is.
Right.
Here's the process. Here's how it works. And interacts with me. What about this? What about that? How
Mhm.
far away do you think we are from something that's interactive like that, where essentially your brain is in an AI world and someone's accessing it from, Zimbabwe on a computer?
You know, I would, and I don't know for sure because I'm fairly new to AI myself, but when you see people like, Elon Musk creating XAI, and you see Microsoft and Amazon and all of these huge companies with all of this money putting those resources into the growth and development of AI, I would say that probably some of that is already available and it's already been done. Now, for me as a smaller business owner, I don't have those resources to create something like that for myself. So it's taken me much longer to get this part of it done. But in my assessment, probably within the next 2 to 3 years, these worksheets will be automated like that. I've already started the process working with, a technical person who's going to help me. And you had Oratana on here before, who's just an absolute genius in the AI space. And so working with them to put this together and create it is one of the things that I'm working on. And so within probably about the next 2 to 3 years, it'll be there.
You've talked a lot about strategy. Strategy is something that's near and dear to my heart, both in the sporting world as well as in the investment strategy world that I live in day to
I
day.
can tell.
Obviously, it is for you as well. So strategically, how are you using AI to assist with strategy, or how have you used it in your career, or how do you see yourself using it? You can take that in past, present, or future.
For me, I keep strategy. Strategy is at a high level, and then you have the operations and you have the tactical. So I always tell people that I work with and people that I talk to that I am a strategist, and I'm thinking at the higher long-term perspective of where we're going. As a matter of fact, the definition of strategy that I use is how do you get from where you are to where you want to be? And so there's 3 components. Where are you, where do you want to be, and how do you connect the dots? So as we're looking at where we want to be, then everything that I talk about has to do with the upper level vision of how this thing will flow out. So for me, it begins with wanting to help 600,000 micro business owners. And what would it take to get from where I am now to that particular point in space? And in some cases, when you're looking at strategy, you can put a time on it. In some cases, you can't. You just have to, because timing is important to that. So you just have to kind of let it evolve. So as I'm thinking about the implementation of AI from that perspective, I look at what is, and I also look at how you would apply it. So we go back to the basic business fundamentals. And when you're using AI, and I learned this from Maura actually the other night, and she says, you don't start with the tool, you start with the task. And you say, what is the task that I have to accomplish? And then you go back and see which tool is available in order to make that happen. So if we're talking about business fundamental number 1, which is selling, you can say, I don't know how to sell. I don't want to sell. I don't understand what's the best way to sell. And you can go into AI, you can go in and find AI tools that can now help you. In the past, if we needed to understand something conceptual, we might go read a book or we might go talk to somebody, but now you can ask AI to give you a conceptual understanding of how this works. And you can continue asking questions until you find the one that fits your particular circumstances. I also tell people that there are no right answers. There are only the best answers under the circumstances for you. And so this will give you, AI can be used to give you those perspectives that you want. So let's take selling again. If we're talking about selling, there's the AI aggregators. Are you familiar with the aggregators? the AI aggregators. Okay, so with AI aggregators, they are a list of a bunch of AI tools that are available. So I can go into an aggregator, let's see, AI Tools Club, for example, and I can look at all of the AI tools that have to do with selling. I can go into an AI aggregator and look at all of the tools that have to do with cultivating relationships. And then I can go in and see all of the tools that have to do with research. I did take a look really quick in AI Tools Club, and for AI tool for selling, for example, one is called Sell Scale. Another one is called Leads Gorilla. So you can go in there and start finding these different tools that you can use for AI. And now you're actually acting at the strategic level, because you're looking at the big picture of what you need to do in order to arrive at a certain place down the road.
Yeah, I like how you likened AI to a tool, which lots of people have, but then I like how you talked about, look at what your task is, and then you choose your tool. And this is very intuitive, I think, just about everyone. If you have to, take something apart in your house, the first thing you do is you see what type of screw might be there, and then you grab the screwdriver, or you bring your whole toolkit knowing you have something there. But at the end of the day, you do choose a tool that fits. I think AI is confusing because people are saying, what is an AI tool and what does it look like? And you just mentioned places you can find them. And so with that, we get to our first audience member question, which essentially is, can you recommend or name a favorite AI tool that you have used that you find to be beneficial?
So I do actually love, I use ChatGPT, and I do actually love the way it works, but I use it more in the form of a Google search, So again, for me, that's a strategic use of it as opposed to a operational tactical, because I have a client and we were talking about prospects, and they knew what they did with their company. They understood the geographic area and products and services that they produced. And we said, let's go out and they were actually using Agent GPT. So let's go out and use Agent GPT to build a prospect list, because the idea is you want to be, people do business with people they know, like, and trust. People make decisions. So in business, you have to be talking to people. And so we said, who are those people? Who are the decision makers, and how do we find them, and how do we have a conversation with them, and what do we say when we find them? But the first thing is we have to identify who they are. So we were using Agent GPT to try to put together a prospects list. It didn't work because I didn't understand prompt engineering at the time. So every time we put in the information, it would come up with other companies that were actually in the same business that they were in. But with understanding prompt engineering, now you can put the right words in and you can get out what you want to get out. So that was one way. I had another client who wanted to license his product. And so he didn't know anything about licensing agreements, and neither did I. So I went into ChatGPT and said, hey, how do you write a licensing agreement? And in seconds, it spit back, a 10-step process for writing a licensing agreement for his particular product. So these are ways I'm kind of using it on a tactical level. And then going back to the strategic level, of course, it's being incorporated into my worksheets. So these are the ways that I'm kind of employing those. So as far as a favorite is concerned, my main experience is with ChatGPT, but there are so many other ones out there that you can look at. And apparently, again, according to my experts, Aura, Claude, and Bard are other generative AIs that can do better work than ChatGPT.
When dealing with prompt engineering, which ChatGPT is one of those, you give it a prompt, it gives you an answer. Have you found it's better to be more specific, like very specific when asking a prompt, or do you get better answers if you're more general?
More specific, because you are giving instructions and you're telling, the AI doesn't think. The AI doesn't interpret, it doesn't infer, it just does what it's told to do. So the more and clearer the instructions that you give, the better result you're going to have coming out the other end. That was the problem I had with my client, is that I didn't give the specific instructions that would get me the result that I was looking for.
Yes, but specificity is very important, I think, in in really any small business setting, because the more granular you can get when answering your question, the more confident you can be you probably have the right answer. As we grow into this AI, it's an emerging field. A lot of people are confused by it. They don't know how to utilize them. I'm going to liken this to a garage situation where someone goes out and they have a car, they drive every single day, but if you pop the hood up, they don't know what they're looking at. So they have a mechanic that comes in and uses a variety of tools to keep their car on the road. Do you see small business owners having to employ essentially an AI mechanic or an AI tool curator, or someone that could be, of course, remote via the cloud, right? It's not someone they actually have as an employee of their organization, but essentially some person that says, hey, I'm looking at your organization, you need this tool for this scenario. And I know you're probably doing part of that, but is that something you see becoming perhaps ubiquitous in the next several years in small business operations?
Yeah, over the long run, just like with a car, I don't care what goes on under the hood. I don't care what goes on with the tires. I don't care anything at all. I want to get in, turn the key, put it in drive, and go where I want to get to. So what I see in the future in this scenario is that people are going to be able to drive the AI until it breaks or until it doesn't do what they need it to do, in which case there will be mechanics available that they can call on. Now, depending upon what their business is and how large they are, they may have to go to outside mechanics. So you might go jump on Fiverr or something like that and say, I need an AI expert who can help me solve this problem. But then there will be companies that will grow to a point where they have an AI in-house and they have an expert who understands the industry, who understands the company, who understands the product. And then that person will become the super expert on prompt engineering within that company. And then that'll be their mechanic who will help them to do what they would like to do or what they need to do.
All right, speaking of Chat GPT, it feels fitting that for our last question, I won't pull the audience. Instead, I'll pull it from Chat GPT itself. And we'll end this summer series with a question from the AI. I gave it a very broad and simple prompt, which was, give me a question to ask Colonel Dr. Russ Barnes.
Oh,
and the answer is as follows. Here's your question. Can you share some of the most significant and challenging experiences you have encountered throughout your career, both military and in the small business world, and how have those experiences shaped your perspective on leadership and decision making?
Wow. How much time do we have?
Yeah, right. That question was not a great ending question, given that it's probably really an hour-long question, but do your best to synthesize that.
It can be decades long, but I will tell you, I'll use one from the military because it encapsulates a lot of things. And one of my last assignments in the military was to go out to Saudi Arabia and help them create a program to protect their oil infrastructure. And that was, when I got out there, there are all these different entities. There's the people in the Pentagon, there's people at Central Command, there's the Ministry of Interior in Saudi Arabia, and there's the State Department. And I'm one colonel, I'm an 06. So I don't really have, I have, power to a certain degree, but I don't have that kind of power. And I have to figure out how to coordinate all these people and get them all on the same page. And they're all significantly more experienced than I am. And it was very challenging to do that. But I used some basic principles. And again, you can't tell people what to do. You can't move people in directions that they don't want to go in. But if you find out where people want to go and you help them get there, then it can bring a lot of people together on the same page in a short period of time and get to the outcome that you want to get to. So when I got back, when they sent me out there, when Central Command sent me out there, they said, hey, this is a position for a general officer. We don't have one available right now. So we're sending you out there until we can find one to replace you. So we don't know how long you're going to be there. It ended up being that I was out there for 5 months. And at the end of 5 months, we had moved that needle significantly. And so as challenging as it was to walk in there under that scenario, the outcome was really rewarding. And especially as one of the last things that I did when I was on active duty, and the commander, the 2-star general that I worked for, he was having a commander's call. And he was talking about the progresses that we had made in the directorate. And he said, yeah, we sent Russ out to Saudi with an impossible task. We didn't think it was going to be able to get done, and he got it done. And that was kind of the highest praise that I could get from something of that magnitude. And it was a great way, like maybe it's a great way to end this session. It was a great way for me to end my military career.
No, that's a great story, and obviously, with Mission Impossible in theaters nowadays, I guess it could have starred you instead of Tom Cruise. So perhaps with the next installment, you may find yourself with a central role. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Barnes. It's been an enlightening discussion on small business. It's been a great summer discussing artificial intelligence and AI. And obviously, on behalf of all of our partners that have made this happen, thank you for allowing me to host it, and thank you for being an audience member and taking your time today to be with us. I'll turn this back over now to Kate. Thanks again, Dr. Barnes. It was a great discussion.
Thank you. Thank you. My pleasure. I enjoyed it tremendously.
Thank you both for such an amazing discussion. This was really an exciting way to wrap up our series. And what better opportunity than to use AI technology for the very last question. I hope you all enjoyed it as well, hearing from Dr. Barnes about how small businesses can become perfectly profitable using technology with AI. So with that, we want to thank all of you for joining us this summer. It's been really exciting to see how Florida innovators are not only using AI technology, but making it an important part of their mission. We cannot wait to see what Provost Joe Glover in the University of Florida, Chris Malachowski in NVIDIA, Matt Donovan in Agriculture Intelligence, Aura Tanner in Black Unicorn Education, Captain Rob Betts in the Naval Air Warfare Training Center, and Dr. Russ Barnes in Sistro Solutions do next. If you did miss any of our sessions, please visit the Florida House YouTube channel. Our team is going to be putting up the link in the chat in just a moment, and you can watch and download any of the videos. We do hope you share with any friends and family members who are interested in AI technology or innovation in general. In the meantime, I do want to extend another invitation to visit any of the presenting organizations. If you're in Gainesville, the Cade Museum is a fabulous space. In Tampa, the Florida Inventors Hall of Fame is there that you can visit. And when you're in our nation's capital, please come by and visit your state embassy. Thank you all again, and thank you for joining us, and have a wonderful rest of the summer. See you next year.